Well, what's the saying? If you shoot for the moon,
you land among, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Yeah. Welcome to the Going Rogue 2.0 podcast. I am your host, Melissa Myers, and I am here today with two dear friends and amazing female financial trendsetters. We have Holleigh Urbanik and we have Karmen Gearhart. And I have had the privilege of working intimately with both of these ladies with Carmen, decades, and also our friendship extends multiple decades, going back pre-2000. Shout out Y2K.
In the 1900s, as my son would say.
Right. And Holleigh wasn't even born then. No, I'm just kidding. No, here she is. And I'm so delighted to have you both here. I think it's so fun that we are women who are in uncharted territory as far as still the financial services world is largely a male-dominated business, and we are here as not just survivors, but thrivers in our industry and with a passion for what we do in serving our clients. And I know, Carmen, you have the same heart set that I do, and Holleigh does as well. That's why I brought her on the team. And the book, Financial Trendsetters, is really the thing that's bringing us together here today. And I want to just let our listeners, our audience know that this is a great resource for gifts that might be coming up for graduation, Mother's Day, just a special hostess gift or a gift for the women in your lives, because this book is entirely a set of female authors from different places in financial services, different pieces of the industry of financial services. And Carmen, you are chapter 8, Holleigh chapter 9. And let's dig into this. I'm going to skip bios because their bios are in the book. So there you go. The link to the book, to get the book, is in the show notes. So just scroll down and click on the link and get as many copies as you can think of to give, and also a copy for yourself. So let's get started. I want to start, Carmen, with you, because we were having an event and Tripp asked you when you were going to write your book, and your comment was basically, I don't know, I don't want to. So tell us how you got into Financial Trendsetters and a little bit of why you did it and some positive outcomes since having written your chapter.
I'd never had any aspirations to be an author, but I've always enjoyed writing the process, and I'm a pretty open book myself, so I don't have a lot of secrets, and I...
Not a big filter.
Lacking that, it's on back order. And so Melissa wrote her book, which I was very supportive of and enjoyed reading it, and she said, when are you going to write a book? And I said, I just don't know what to say. And then she connected me with Jessica Weaver, and she said, I just want you to write one chapter about your story. And I said, well, I could talk about myself. That's really easy.
We know ourselves best.
And the experience was actually wonderful, just kind of going through my whole history from how I was brought up around money and a couple different career changes, why I did what I did, who inspired me during that time, to where I am today, and the process was wonderful, and I recommend it, even if you just do a journal for yourself and kind of write about your story. And my husband was brought to tears, and he said, wow, we've kind of been through a lot, and we're pretty positive people, so we always kind of try to look at the bright side of things, and we may kind of shove under the rug challenges that we've had, so it really brought to light all that we've accomplished and overcome in our almost 20 years together.
Awesome. That's a very positive outcome.
Personally, professionally, financially, emotionally, the maturity from when you're in your 20s or in your 40s is pretty large gap. So,
like a double gap.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a great experience for me. And, best-selling author wasn't something on the list, but I'm pretty proud that we accomplished that, Holleigh.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Hal, you know the question, so tell us your reason and some positive outcomes.
The reason I wrote it, I feel like I've always wanted to write a book, And this was a way to baby step into that, where I wasn't like, okay, I have to make a full-on commitment, get like all this time set aside in between trying to learn a new career and write a book. It was like, I don't know if I could do all of that. So just starting out writing one chapter was like a no-brainer. That was so exciting to be able to take the time, take a creative hour of my day and just figure out like what are the things that I have already accomplished and what could I share with those that are going to read this book and what kind of impact could I create. So that was why I wrote it. But the process for me was very, I don't even know the right words to say. It was really eye-opening, and it forced me to be vulnerable with myself and confront some of the things that I had never confronted before in my past. My family did not talk about money. I didn't really talk about it at all growing up as a kid. So trying to think about the things that my husband and I, as newlyweds, were wanting to set forth for our children, my bonus children, and the way that we wanted our future to look in the many years after that. Thinking about that and writing about it was really a vulnerable opportunity.
Both of you mentioned how you grew up with money. Was it at all scary to put your stories out there?
Well, my dad made the comment, well, I see I'm the worst influence on you of your whole life with regards to money. And it's kind of true. Because meeting Melissa and working at a bank and, becoming a licensed professional really changed my outlook, reading more, educating myself, wanting to empower other women. You know what you know, right? Until I met other people who think differently and was able to have new peers and people that I admire in my life besides my father, then I was able to look at all the other different ways there are to live your life and structure your finances.
Yeah.
And so because I admired my dad, I just did whatever he said to do, which was, you can afford a new car. It's only a few more dollars a month, and on and on and on. And that was just normal. I was just told that was normal. So
Right.
I never really had any financial trouble or missed a payment or was late, but I had stress. And upon discovering a different way to live, now I never want to go back.
There's got to be a better
Yeah,
way.
there's got to be a better way. And it's painful getting there.
Yeah, I really enjoyed. I revisited your chapter, Carmen, because before this podcast episode aired, because I really think that we relate on so many things in your chapter and my chapter, as far as like what that journey is like. Like, is it easy and fun? Heck no, it's not. But you know what? The freedom and flexibility that you have on the other side, that's something that's so priceless. You can't put a dollar amount on that. And I think that what we really committed to, not just saying that, yes, this is what we want, but we really committed and bought into this lifestyle that we wanted. And I think that's a difference, whether you say you want something or are you committed to it. You got to make that choice.
If it was easy, everyone would do it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And most things worth having aren't easy.
Very
Right.
true.
I always think the growth is in the pain, and pain doesn't feel good, but on the other side of it, it's definitely, in retrospect, well worth it.
And
in
it's
whatever we
almost
do.
hard to describe until someone's lived on both sides. Living with financial stress and, robbing Peter to pay Paul and paycheck to paycheck versus living a debt-free lifestyle. It almost seems like too tall of a mountain to climb for some people.
Yeah.
So until you've been on both sides, you really don't understand the difference in feeling. You don't even know how much weight you're carrying on your shoulders until you totally remove that weight. Or you then be able to realize how much weight you were actually carrying for a long time.
And you don't even know. Like, I remember we were sitting in the office at Huntington and we were talking about student loans, and you're like, well, I don't really care about my student loans. I'm not worried about that was your quote. Like, I'm not worried about my student loans. But then at some point, I remember you walked in there and you're like, I paid off my student loans.
That was probably one of the best feelings ever, because I got a job right out of college in my field and still took me 11 years to pay them off. And that was with taking loans for about half of my education. So now with the rising costs of education, and if somebody doesn't have any parental support, I see the numbers now. I see people are making a little more than I did with double, triple, quadruple the debt for the same education. So it can seem just so overwhelming that people don't even want to think about it. They kind of think like, well, it's always just going to be there. I'm just going to carry this.
Right. Yeah. And so on this podcast, what we do is celebrate possibilities. And you took the possibility of what life could be like by paying off student loans, by having acquired those in your late teens and early 20s. And then Holleigh, you have a new perspective on the cost of education with being an adult returning student. Can you share with our listeners some of what you've found as far as the resources? Because I want to use this podcast as a way to inspire others. And I think what you're doing right now, returning to school, is an inspiration. And it doesn't necessarily require going out and financing every little expense related to the cost of education like somebody, yours truly, did when she was in school getting her undergrad.
Yeah. I can attest to the student loan debt too, and really not wanting to go back into that direction. Being an adult learner and going back to school is now so much easier for those that live in Michigan. There was a scholarship opportunity that all I had to do was ask the financial service area sector of the college, and they were like, oh yeah, you qualify for this. So if you haven't earned a degree, or maybe you went to a private 4-year and then you dabbled in a couple things and a year later you're like, this isn't for me, and you left the school and you got all that lovely student loan debt and want to do things differently, I might be speaking from experience, there's still time, there's still opportunity to do it. And it does not mean that you have to take on more debt. I am going back to school and I am paying cash for all my classes, and I have no regrets. It feels amazing to be able to do that, and I highly recommend it.
And why are you returning to school?
I'm returning back to school to get the degree that I want.
And then what?
And then to be a CFP, because that's my long-term goal. So along the way, yes, like I did pass one state test to be a licensed professional today, but also eventually later on to be like these ladies that I get to work with and hang out with.
You're
and
in
get
a
to
CFP
know.
sandwich.
That's right.
I am. I love it. Oh my gosh. But yeah, you gotta take the steps, and you might as well fall in love with the journey as you go, because whether it's one class or 2 classes or an associate's degree to get the bachelor's degree, like go on and get a master's. Like, why not? Keep going. Keep learning, keep growing, because you're not gonna regret it, and nobody can take that away from you.
Yes, and I think that's something that all three of us have in common, is that we are all lifelong learners. We're avid readers. We're always thinking about what we could do better, what's next, enjoying the moment, what has to go. So, Carmen, you 25 years in the industry. What are some of the things that you've seen over the last quarter century?
Why do you have to put it like that?
Because I'm right there with you. What are some transformations that you've seen industry-wise and where we're at today?
Unfortunately, I haven't seen the increase in women in the industry as I would have hoped. So back when I was in college, it was about 10% female majoring in finance. And now when I go to continuing education or conferences and meetings, it still feels like it's not too much more than that. I think the industry, last I looked, was up to like 18% female. So we still have a ways to go. I think we can offer a really consistent and professional and smart approach that's just a little bit different than traditional, which to me is great. I think there's more of a focus now on the behavioral finance. I'm really interested in generationally how you have to approach different groups of people with your styles. So I've kind of noticed, baby boomers, they really want to see me in person. They like talking on the phone. They like to hear from me. But a busy working Gen X woman prefers an email, and the younger generation doesn't check their email. So I've kind of had to adjust my business and my focus depending on who I'm talking to. There's not just one approach, hey, this is me. It's me accommodating the different ways that people like to receive information. So that's been a huge part of it. I also think technology comes into play, but I feel like finance is a little bit behind when it comes to technology based on compared to other industries, but it's coming. We're coming. We're just a little bit
They're always just coming along.
Yeah, we're a little bit slower on that, but it's starting. So I've seen a slow trend that way. And I think having my CFP degree is definitely more valuable today than it was when I first got it almost 15 years ago. I think people are looking for a big picture approach to managing their wealth and looking for an advisor rather than a broker or a trader. I think those days are pretty much gone.
Yeah. Yeah. What about you, Holleigh, in terms of the recent last 3 years? Holleigh's about to have her 3-year anniversary on my team, and a lot has changed just in 3 years.
Yeah. A lot. I don't really like, I'm not sure how to answer that professionally other than just from what I have seen. I do agree that there aren't very many women in this field, and a lot of like the continuing ed that Carmen was talking about and other events that we go to, I see like maybe 5 females. The 3 of us are 5 of them. But yeah, I think behavioral finance is trendy too. I love that because it's so interesting to me to know like how certain people have arrived at their thoughts with their money. And I do think that a lot of people are looking for someone that they know and trust that have a legal obligation as a fiduciary to guide them in a clear path without just saying, here's a product, go play with that. Like, see how well you do with whatever. They want to know that they have a clear path. They want to know where it's going to take them and what's in it for them. What are they going to get out of it?
I also think investors are becoming smarter because of the internet. There's so much access to information that in the past you would have to get the newspaper the next day to look up a price. And now every second of every day you can check on your investments, look at the price, sign in on your phone and look at the balance of your account. Whereas in the past you'd have to wait till 2 weeks into the following month to get a quarterly statement. So I think investors are getting smarter. They're doing a lot of research on their own, maybe before they even decide to meet. And so that's a good thing for everyone. I want my clients to be educated.
Yeah,
it's not a threat to me.
No, and then it takes the fear out of it for them if they know that what we're saying is accurate, that we're not trying to just sell them a product or something like that. And that's why I think we're all like aligned with the planning process, because if you do a planning process, all of the needs become apparent. And then it's a matter of retaining that relationship and working with the client and showing them the possible outcomes, but also the possible pitfalls, which that can wreck the best laid plans. So making sure that there's awareness all around and that we're not there like, to pitch the product. It's to solve potential problems and then amplify the positive outcomes that could come down the pipe.
Well, and I think when you have that outline of a plan and you have times like we're going through right now where things are extra volatile, nerve-wracking, changing on a daily basis, we can always revert back to our plan. And like Melissa and I have always said, begin with the end in mind. What are we trying to do? So anything that happens today or tomorrow or next week or next month doesn't change our whole plan for the rest of our financial future.
Yeah.
I actually had a client called me today and said, can I still go on vacation?
Oh.
So she really, truly was nervous that what had happened in the last couple of weeks would mean she couldn't do a family vacation.
So here's the takeaway. If you're at all in doubt, just ask. Get on the phone, shoot your advisor, your planner an email, and just ask the question. That's what we're here for. Holleigh?
Melissa.
How's it feel to be in a studio again?
I love it. I'm like, yes.
Good. So, Holleigh, in the last 3 years, what has been the scariest thing that you've had to either grow through or address? It can be personal or professional.
That's a loaded question.
We've got time.
Scariest? Scariest. Well, just starting out and having to pass a Series 65 was a big, scary goal for me. Initially, being offered an opportunity to work together and not really knowing what that end goal was when we first started, I was like, all right, yeah, let's do this. Let's work together, and
What
can help
did you think you were doing?
I don't know. I was like, I just want to help. I want to give value. I want to serve more people in not a transactional manner, but I just want to, because I was in property and casualty insurance before I hopped in here. So
Did you see yourself more as a service person rather than a salesperson or planner?
didn't think of myself as a planner, but I had, as a licensed producer, I had to be in sales. Like, I didn't have much of a paycheck if I didn't have new clientele, because I was starting my book of business from nothing at that point. So, I guess scariest thing I've had to overcome in this career so far, I think overall, just trusting myself and believing in myself, those two things. But also, in order to grow in any way, you have to just trust and believe that it's going to work out. And I love that you guys are so profoundly believers in yourselves that I am like, I love being around you, because it's just such an empowering environment, because you do see the positives of everything. And it's not like I'm a Debbie Downer or Eeyore over here, but it's just like, I really had to check myself for a minute. And I think that that's really where your community comes in huge. If you're not surrounding yourselves with people in your corner who believe in you and can push you and encourage you to grow, then you're just going to stay floating out there in your safe little bubble, and you're not going to experience the growth that you want.
Right. And so many times, just conventionally, if you listen or you listen to yourself, you listen to other people talking, you hear the phrase, what if? And it's usually followed by a negative outcome. And I think that's something that you guys are really great at, is flipping the script and what's the best that could happen. And you're jumping in with both feet.
Or even what's probably going to happen. Because a lot of the times the what ifs are a really tiny percentage chance of happening. I mean, yes, there's a ton of worst case scenarios, but most of the time it's somewhere in the middle where you land. It's not really that 0.1%.
Well, what's the saying? If you shoot for the moon,
you land among, even if you miss, you'll land among the stars.
Yeah.
I have that in my office.
Oh, you do?
It's my favorite quote.
Yeah. What else, ladies?
I don't think that we weren't scared. I just think we weren't going to let it stop us. I think that's really the difference. And actually, everyone thought I was crazy for leaving the bank and starting from zero.
Except for Gary.
Except for my husband and Melissa. And my husband knows me the best, and Melissa knew what I was like at work and always believed in my potential. Everybody else was scared. My parents were scared, my friends were, how could you take such a risk? But the two most important people did believe in me, and I believed in myself. I thought, well, if I'm going to do it, I got to do it. So, and I've used that in many different aspects of my life. If I say I'm going to do it, I'm just going to do it. Can't stop. So,
and everything's a building block. So even if it didn't work out the way you might have anticipated, there's always a takeaway that is a positive, and it always leads to the next step. And that's what's cool, like changing the way that my side of the business was organized. Had I not done that, you guys wouldn't have been introduced to be able to be authors in this book. And so that's just part of what is now really inspiring. And I have to admit, they wrote about me a lot in their chapters. But I say that with pride and also recognition for the person that I'm becoming. And I didn't, guys, me cry. I didn't realize all those years ago, like what I was doing just as part of who I was, how that was, I was living my legacy, and now it's memorialized in a book, because you both said things that were very edifying of who I am and my character. And so I'm really honored that we've been able to live and grow through those years, and now you're living your legacy, the way that you're meant to live it. And I think it's so important. Like, if you're not happy in life, just do an assessment and change one thing, just 1% or one step, because everything is a building block and everything adds up. And do you want to leave a legacy that you're proud of once you're gone and you have no idea the impact you made? Or do you want to be able to have those opportunities to just have one little piece of comfort? Well, now there's two pieces of confirmation, but sometimes you don't know how you are impacting people. And when I was writing my book, the Going Rogue book, somebody asked me, well, what's going to make you break out the champagne? And I know what they were going for. They were like, oh, you get the biggest client of your life. And that, I said, it's going to be when somebody tells me how what I did, what I put out there, my creative purpose, how it impacted their life. And
so where's our champagne? She gave us water. And we even put it in a book. We just got water.
Yeah, I missed that. Hashtag miss. So I think it's neat. And
I'm still grateful to this day.
Oh, thanks. I remember when we talked at Old Boys, and Brock was in his little carrier, and carrying him around on my arm.
And now he's a man.
Now he's a big man. Yeah. And
well, I had some exciting news slightly related to that. My son, who's 11 and in 5th grade, is doing a project on being a financial planner.
Awesome.
As a possible future career. So it's something I try not to push, but that would be pretty awesome. That would be the ultimate legacy, is if I could pass my business on to my son.
Right. Yeah. And Holleigh, I mean, you're at like the beginning of your career, and what a great way. You're going to impact so many people, and the flexibility that comes with our careers. Carmen, you just talked about working a smidge while you're on vacation, spending time with your family and friends, and the flexibility that this job really does afford. Tell me some other things. Holleigh, you can maybe go first and talk about some of the flexibility that you've had and that maybe you look forward to experiencing in this career.
Yeah, what immediately popped in my head was the moment in October a few months ago. My grandma passed away, and I remember praying about that and just being like, God, I just at the end of the day, I just want to grieve well. Like, I don't want to, spiral and be all like down in the dumps for a long time. I really wanted to be an example of how that could bring light to a really sad moment for my family, and kind of be a change maker there, because that hadn't been how grief has been processed in the past. So that was my prayer. And I remember just telling you a couple days, I was like, I don't know how much longer my grandma's going to be around. Like, is it okay if and you were like, oh my gosh, yes. Like, you don't have to ask if you can go be there during that time. And I think that was one of the most amazing opportunities, to be able to know that even though I wasn't physically present in the office, I was still able to be with my grandma during her last few days here. And that was profound. I was able to be a solid rock for my grandfather as he was grieving, and I wouldn't have been able to do that if I was living paycheck to paycheck, clocking in at a manufacturing position or job or anything like that I had to I gotta be there at this time exactly, or they burn my hours and then I won't get paid for two. That wasn't even a consideration in my mind. It was, I want to be with my family, and how can I be there for them and support them? And that moment, I will cherish that forever, because she was such an important person to me, and And that was an incredible opportunity. And I look forward to learning more about the business and really approaching it as if I already own my own business. And you just have to do things that normal people won't do. Like you have to, you just have to do the work. You just have to consistently show up. You have to do it scared. And what you said, Carmen, about like not letting the things that scare you hold you back. You don't let those voices take over. You talk back to them. You tell them like, heck no, I'm gonna do this because this is what I said I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna do it. And you do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did work on vacation, but I take a lot more vacation than most people. So
Yeah.
that's how I justify that. I don't even count the days. I make it work, right? And so I'm not going to sit around and complain that I had to work a few days when my clients needed me, because it way more benefits me, most of the time.
And it's a lot easier to work when there's a palm tree in your vision.
Oh yeah.
Out the front of the
Palm tree and a cool breeze.
And so I can't ever complain about when I'm working because of the flexibility that I have. So, and I tell wholesalers, ooh, I can get together with you before Memorial Day or after Labor Day, but I'm going to focus my time. If I'm working in the summer when my husband and my son are off, then it's going to be to help my clients and grow my business. And it's not going to be for a, salad with some guy in a gray suit. I love them. They're valuable, but it can be too much. So I've really been able to prioritize. I don't miss my son's sporting events. I'm there to bring him to practice. I go to conferences. I'm totally present for my son's life, which was very important to me. And I've never had a client have a problem with it. So if I have a client with a problem with me prioritizing my son, then they're probably not a good fit.
And that's a beautiful place to be at this point in your career, to pick and choose who you bring into your world.
That's a mindset that's hard to get to, though, because if you're a scrapper and you have goals and you're always working to get more clients and more assets, and then you start over from zero and you really need more clients and more assets, it's hard to say no to a client, not take, the opportunity to work with them or take their assets under management. But it's the most beautiful feeling the first time you tell someone, I don't think this is a good match. The first time that you listen to the warning bells that are going off in your head and you actually don't hire a client or you fire them, that's a really good feeling.
Yeah.
Not because you don't care about them, but it's just simply not a good match. And I have a strong personality, and we all three of us have different personalities, and there's a right person out there for them, but we may just not be the best fit.
That's what I like to say in the introductory meeting, like talk to other advisors, make sure that this is a good fit, because if it's not a good fit, you're not going to take advice from that person. And it's just going to always feel icky, a very technical word there, but it just won't feel good. And you'll always be questioning it, and probably fear will eat into your decisions of taking inaction instead of positive action, even if the advice was correct or good or well-intentioned.
If people tell me they're interviewing other advisors, I say, that's great. You should. Please do.
It's too important of a decision and relationship, and the money is one thing, but it's also your time. So use your time to make a good decision.
Totally agree. I have no problem with being interviewed.
Yeah. And knowing that you're in the running, and then you win. Well, and going back to like our career and thinking about the flexibility and the benefits of it, I don't know why there aren't more women. You guys, like, really, we're not sitting there doing math. We have calculators and computer systems and things that model it. You can read. If you can pass the test, you can read. You test well. It's really, I think, largely about confidence and just deciding you're going to do it, and jumping in, but having good, effective conversations. And for me, the freedom piece that was one of my biggest challenges when we left corporate America was being able to structure my calendar. And now I call it, I own my calendar. So, I don't start at 8 o'clock. I don't start at 9 o'clock. Our day starts at 10.
The market's not even open.
Yeah.
I would just like to say the market is open 9:30 to 4. And I actually think a lot of people don't even know that. I mean, there's really no point in calling me at 7 a.m. or 6 p.m. I can't do anything. It has to be during business hours. I'm happy to talk about other things, but if you need a transaction, we're limited to 9:30 to 4 Eastern time
Yes.
as far as processing a transaction.
So
So there's no need that you need to be in the office at 7 in the morning until 7. Now, do I go into work early sometimes? Yes, if I have to. I'm not a morning person. But am I staying there well past the market close on many days? Yes. But we have the flexibility to structure our business with what works for our families.
Right. Well, and there's other things than just meeting clients. We're doing prep work. We're doing the client appointment. We're doing follow-up work. We're doing business-oriented work, not just client-related work. So there are other things that go into it that don't need to be done during those hours, and that's part of that great flexibility. I know mine was saying, okay, I am starting the day at 10 because I'm prioritizing my health. And when we look around the room, a lot of times you can see evidence of older advisors maybe not having prioritized their health. And so I just decided if I'm going to be blowing out 100 candles, I need to do what it takes to make sure I can do that, and do so maybe without a fan to blow them out. And then I think that as the industry evolves and a lot of advisors, especially men, that come into financial services, financial planning, being an advisor, it's a second career. And ladies, if you are at that point where you're maybe ready for a pivot, you're thinking about what's next for me, the kids are out of the house, or maybe you find yourself suddenly single for whatever reason, there's a place for you in financial services. And fun fact, my degree's in biology. And Hollie's earning her degree, but she's in financial services. And Carmen, she started out with the finance degree, so she ran the track.
There's more than
because
one
she
way
ran track.
That's right.
College athlete.
There's more than one way to skin a cat. I think one thing you didn't mention when it comes to some of the characteristics you're looking for, a lot of where I think female advisors find success is in being good listeners. There is a subset, not all. We're not man-hating. We love men. But there's definitely a subset of male advisors that just want to tell you how smart they are. And they end up talking about themselves the whole time rather than listening to your needs and goals. And so I think that's how I differentiate myself, is really listening. And then our job during turbulent times is to remind people, you said this. You said this is what you wanted. This was the plan we agreed on to get there. Are we still pursuing that? Is that still the goal? We can check in, we can revise, we can alter our plans. But this was based on what you said, not me telling you what's smart to do. You telling me what you want to accomplish and me helping you create a path for that.
Yeah.
So the listening part of it is key to success. Ask a question and then close your mouth and open your ears.
Right. We were just talking about it recently, too. Like, you ask a question, you listen to that answer, you take the notes, and then you ask, and what else? And you can do the and what else question forever. So if we're asking you and what else, we know there's more in your story. And we can help you. We just need to know. I'm a fact finder. I love to know all the facts before I start giving answers. And I'm not one that's going to sit there and just talk about myself or our performance, because that's not the way we roll. We want to know what you're thinking about, what your concerns are, your frustrations and your challenges. And usually they're all interrelated to some degree. So, what else? Carmen, I miss eating with you.
You're my favorite person to eat with.
Likewise.
And my husband, both of you.
What's been your best meal lately?
We went to a Cuban restaurant in Orlando on spring break, and that was pretty incredible. It was really authentic, and the place looked like you were on a cobblestone street in Havana. So the decor, the environment was really cool. They had amazing cocktails. You could get like 15 different kinds of mojitos. So that started it out good.
Oh, yeah.
On the right path. And so that was a fantastic meal. We had paella. Chorizo is a weakness of mine. Plantains, guacamole. I mean, it just hit all my weaknesses.
My mouth is watering. Thank you. That's the best 0-calorie meal I've ever had.
And then next up on our adventures is we're going to Bermuda in June, so on a cruise. So I always love all my cruise.
Are you doing the chef's table?
I am on my next cruise in December.
I love a multiple cruiser.
Yeah, chef's table, 12 to 14 courses. It just doesn't get better than that. It's like top days of my life. Followed up with an espresso martini, which is my favorite cocktail when cruising, so I can stay up for the nightlife after I eat a 3-course meal.
Holleigh likes those espresso martinis too.
I do. I've tried all the local ones around Grand Haven and Spring Lake, and I still think the bomb espresso martini I've ever had was at Ironfish Distillery, which is not local to here, but
Up by Crystal Mountain.
It's in my stomping grounds.
so
Try Carlisle's in the hockey rink.
Oh, I don't venture out that way much, but I'm
She's
gonna
have to go north of the bridge, folks. She's crossing
Oh
the
Lord,
bridge.
Well, you like tacos, so it's right next to Rad Dad's.
I
So
love Red Dad's
yeah.
too. Okay.
Okay.
All right, so
right.
thinking ahead, I do love traveling with you both. Holleigh and I have done a little bit of traveling in the last couple of years, and you have a family trip coming up.
I do. Yes.
Tell us about that. Where are you
We-
going and why?
We're going in June to Maine. My grandmother turns 80 on Wednesday, but we're celebrating in June. We're doing like a little family trip. She wants to do all the touristy things. She really wants to drive and stop and see what she can see and get all the pamphlets and brochures. So she
And
can
hopefully
starter.
some lobster.
Lobster, yes.
Okay.
That is a must. That is a must, yeah. But yeah, we're going to go, Todd and I are going to drive, and we're just going to go through Canada and take our time, seeing what we see, stop where we want, and just go with it.
Awesome. Great.
What's next on your list?
Actually, thank you. When this airs, I will be in Peru. Yep. So I will be still on the Inca Trail at the time this airs. We're going.
Hiking?
Yeah, we're doing. My sister Holleigh and I are going.
I was
and-
going to say, that doesn't sound like your husband's kind of a trip. Last time you made him hike, it didn't end well.
He still reminds me of that. Sorry, right? We were actually talking about that yesterday. But yeah, Holleigh is an avid hiker completing the Appalachian Trail. She hiked 2,100 miles about a year and a half ago and has done several trips since and keeps going back out to Appalachia. She pronounces it funny, but it's the way that's supposed to be pronounced. She has informed me. And she gets her family involved now, her grandson. And so yesterday we had a meet and greet with the outfitter, and you could tell, like, she knows what she's doing. I'm going, and they know what they're doing. I'm just going to do what they say. And she's asking all these questions and taking notes and being very well prepared. So I know I have a good support system around me, but super excited. So when I went to Iceland, actually this started a couple of years ago. We were in Panama, the country, and doing all of these adventures every day. An adventure was included with the all-inclusive package. And then I got back from there and I decided Iceland was going to be the thing. And so we did Iceland. And then, then I was in Florida, in Orlando, on one of those ripcord swings. And you had to pull the ripcord, and then it would like let you go down 800 feet. And it was at that moment. And I thought, oh my goodness, I am stepping into a life of adventure. And that's what I want my life to be, my travel to be. And so from there, then we went to an unknown town to anybody around here in Mexico, Ajijic. Becky and I did, and went hiking there. And so, yeah, it's just become like this thing that I'm not going to call myself necessarily a hiker. I'll still say I'm a walker. And this is kind of a glamping situation where we have porters and they'll cook food for us. So this is a good thing for me to ease into it because everything's a building block. I don't know that I'm going to be camping in a hammock on the Appalachian Trail or anywhere else in the world, but this is a great way to step into it. But the reason it happened with this particular group is because when I got back from Iceland, Facebook knows everything. And I kept getting these ads popping up on Facebook about the Conqueror Adventures. And you can do a virtual challenge and hike or bike or however you want to, but you can get around the entire ring road, 800 miles around Iceland. And I was like, oh, that's cool. I've been there. That'll be neat. And what's really awesome is they send you postcards and they do all these things where it's just very interactive. And at the end, you get a legit medal, like if you run a 5K or something. And so it was just a really cool experience. But then they have a very, very good marketing funnel. It led to their actual in-person tours. So there's 2 in Italy, one in the Dolomites and another one along the Amalfi Coast. And then there's Peru, there's Nepal, and then this outfitter is based out of New Zealand. So they have several hikes, like 3 or 4 different hikes you could do in the New Zealand area. But they're small and intimate, and there's like 12 or 13 people max, plus your guides and the porters. And aside from the Peru trip, you get to sleep in a hotel bed every night.
Okay.
So
is it your goal to do all of them?
Yeah, Nepal will probably be last or not at all, but yeah, I'm kind of going on this bucket list thing of if it's like a package and it, you get some of the unknowns out of the way, so you know what to expect, and then you can just keep checking off your list and having new adventures and meeting new people, having new experiences, and lots of fun and adventure.
Well, you'll have to look into Antarctica because that's on my list, and it's definitely not on my husband's.
Yes, and my friend Emily just got back from there, so we'll have some inside intel. And with that, I think it's just an honor, Carmen, Holleigh. Thank you for being part of my life, and I'm thanking you on behalf of all of the clients that you serve and their families, because the other benefit, not just the flexibility that we get and the fun that we get to have serving our clients and their families, but it's generational that we're making an impact. And what greater calling, what greater job can we have to leave an impact? And I wanted to celebrate this because we're celebrating possibilities. What can happen if Holleigh and her husband were baptized yesterday? And what a great way to be able to wrap up Holy Week and look ahead to a whole new year. So congratulations on your baptism, Holleigh. I should have started out with that.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So if you are at this point in the podcast and you're still here with us and you haven't already, please remember to like, follow, share, give a shout out, say hi to us. Carmen is online and her website is
CarmelFinancial.com.
And Holleigh, what's a good way to reach out to you?
You can check out melissamyersgroup.com and click on the team. You'll see me in my bright pink Barbie blazer.
Yep.
That's me.
Yeah, kind of like this. And if you are at the point where you think that you have some questions, you're not sure if you're on the right track financially, if you're wondering if you're making mistakes, you hate your job, the grind is getting real and you're done with it, be sure to head over to Melissa Myers Group and you can book a welcome call. No pressure. We'll just have a conversation. And if it's a good fit, then we can work together and help you achieve your dreams. For those of you out there who are readers, remember to click on the link in the show notes so that you can pick up your copy of Financial Trendsetters. And also, this is a book, like speaking of legacy, all of the proceeds from this book are going to benefit students in scholarship funds. Do you know the name of who?
It's got a really long string of initials, but it is Females in Finance in California. There's an annual scholarship.
Okay, so
Professional Women's Collaboration.
Your purchase will help do good for others.
And another thing, even if you're not a big reader like we all are, the book is broken down into each chapter as a different person's story. So over your lunch hour, you could easily read a chapter and you can pick away at it. It's not a book that you need to read from cover to cover in a row. It's something that you can use whenever you're down, you need inspiration. And all the women's stories are really inspirational.
Also, if you need a podcast guest, you have 3 potentials right here. And you know what? And I like, Holly, what you said about it's kind of you were tiptoeing into being able to write a book. And that was my situation too. I had a compilation book that I was a part of, which it was like training wheels, so to speak. And so I believe that everyone has a story, which means you have a book inside of you. And there's more than one way to get that story out there and make a positive impact in somebody else's life. So let's have you go rogue and celebrate those possibilities.